You ever have one of those days where you wake up and something just feels off? Maybe you're dragging yourself out of bed even though you got a full night's sleep. Or you catch yourself in the mirror and think, did I always have those dark circles under my eyes? Or maybe you've been feeling weirdly moody, snapping at people over nothing, or struggling to focus no matter how much coffee you drink. Here's the thing. We all experience little changes in our bodies. A headache here, an off day there. It's easy to brush them off, right? I'm just tired. Must be stress. Probably nothing. But what if it's not just nothing? What if your body is actually trying to tell you something important? Something that could mean the difference between catching a problem early and letting it turn into something serious? See, our bodies are incredible. They're always working behind the scenes, adjusting, healing, repairing, keeping us running without us even thinking about it. But when something's out of balance, whether it's our hormones, our gut, our immune system, it doesn't just shut down overnight. It starts with subtle warning signs, little red flags that at first don't seem like a big deal. And that's the tricky part, because most of us, myself included, tend to ignore these signals until they get too loud to ignore. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I was constantly exhausted, like bone deep, dragging myself through the day tired. But I kept telling myself it was just work stress, maybe not sleeping well, no big deal. I pushed through it until one day I nearly passed out in the middle of a meeting. Turns out my iron levels were dangerously low, and my thyroid was totally out of whack. Looking back, my body had been trying to warn me for months, but I wasn't listening. And that's why this conversation is so important. Because I know I'm not the only one who's ignored the signs. Maybe you've been experiencing something similar. Constant fatigue, weird mood swings, sudden weight changes, or digestive issues that seem to come out of nowhere. These aren't random flukes. Your body is communicating with you. And today we're going to talk about how to actually listen. Now, I get it. It's easy to ignore these things, especially in a world where we're always being told to push through and just deal with it. But here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. The sooner you recognize these warning signs, the better chance you have of fixing the problem before it becomes a full-blown health crisis. And no, that doesn't mean running to the doctor for every little thing. It means becoming more aware of your body, paying attention to patterns, and making small but powerful changes that can improve your health in ways you never even imagined. And listen, this isn't about making you paranoid or turning you into a hypochondriac. It's about empowerment. Because when you understand what your body is telling you, you take control of your health instead of letting your health control you. And trust me, once you start noticing and addressing these signs early, it's a game changer. You feel better, you have more energy, your mood improves, everything clicks into place. So in this episode, we're diving deep into 5 major warning signs that your body is waving like a giant red flag. Some of these you might already recognize, and others might surprise you. But each one is important, and by the end of this episode, I promise you'll walk away with real, practical steps to start making changes right away. Before we get into the first sign, I want you to do something. Think about how you've been feeling lately. Not just today, but over the past few weeks or even months. Has anything felt different? Have you been more tired than usual, struggling to focus, noticing odd changes in your skin or digestion? If anything comes to mind, keep that thought with you as we go through these warning signs. Because this isn't just about learning, it's about taking action for yourself. All right, let's jump in. The first warning sign is something that affects so many people, but often gets dismissed as just life. Let's talk about chronic fatigue, when being tired all the time is not normal and what you can do about it. So let's talk about something almost everyone deals with, but hardly anyone takes seriously. Fatigue. Not just feeling a little tired after a long day, not that I didn't sleep great last night kind of exhaustion. I mean the kind of fatigue that sticks to you, the kind that follows you around like a heavy backpack you can't take off, no matter how much coffee you drink or how many hours you spend in bed. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That bone-deep exhaustion that makes everything feel like a chore. You wake up groggy, you push through your morning, maybe you get a little energy boost after lunch, but by late afternoon, you're running on fumes. And no matter how much sleep you get, you still feel wiped out. You tell yourself, it's just stress, it's just life, I'm just getting older. But what if it's not just life? What if it's a warning sign that something deeper is going on? Here's the thing, chronic fatigue is not normal. Let me say that again because we've all been conditioned to accept exhaustion as part of the grind. Being constantly tired is not just a part of being an adult. It's your body's way of waving a red flag, telling you something needs to change. I remember talking to a friend about this not too long ago. She's a mom of 2, runs her own business, always on the go. She'd been feeling completely drained for months. At first, she chalked it up to mom life, just the reality of being busy. But then the fatigue started messing with her mind. She couldn't focus, kept forgetting things, started feeling this weird sense of detachment, like she was walking through life in a fog, and she kept brushing it off. Until one day, she actually fell asleep at a red light, just for a second, but that was the wake-up call. So she finally went to get some blood work done. And guess what? Severe iron deficiency. Her ferritin levels, basically the storage form of iron in your body, were almost non-existent. Her body wasn't making enough hemoglobin, which meant oxygen wasn't getting to her brain, her muscles, her cells. No wonder she felt like a zombie. And she had no idea, because no one ever told her that exhaustion like that isn't normal, that it's not just about how much you sleep, but what's actually going on inside your body. And she's not alone. There are so many reasons why chronic fatigue can creep in. Maybe it's nutrient deficiencies like iron, B12, magnesium, all essential for energy production. Maybe it's your thyroid, that little gland in your neck that controls your metabolism. If it's sluggish, so are you. Maybe it's blood sugar swings, those highs and crashes that leave you feeling wired one minute and wiped out the next. Or maybe this is a big one. It's your stress levels, because let me tell you, chronic stress is like putting your body in overdrive until it burns out completely. Think about it. When you're stressed, your body pumps out cortisol, your fight or flight hormone. That's fine in small doses. It keeps you alert, helps you push through challenges. But when stress becomes your baseline, when you're running on constant alert mode, your adrenal glands get fried. That's why some people feel wired but exhausted at the same time, jittery, anxious, but also completely drained. It's a sign your nervous system is running on fumes. And here's where it gets tricky, because we live in a world that celebrates exhaustion. Hustle culture makes it seem like pushing through is a badge of honor. We wear our fatigue like a trophy. Oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. But let me ask you something. When did feeling like garbage become the goal? When did running ourselves into the ground become the standard? I want you to think about your own life for a second. When was the last time you felt fully rested? Not just okay, but genuinely recharged. When was the last time you woke up and didn't need 3 shots of espresso to feel human? If you can't remember, that's your first red flag. So, what do you do about it? Well, the first step is figuring out the root cause. Because, like I said, fatigue isn't just one thing, it's a symptom of something deeper. Start by looking at your sleep, not just how many hours, but the quality of your sleep. Are you waking up during the night? Do you snore? Because if you do, you might have sleep apnea, which means your body isn't getting enough oxygen while you sleep. And that's a huge cause of daytime fatigue. Next, nutrition. Are you actually fueling your body, or are you surviving on caffeine and carbs? A lot of people struggling with fatigue don't realize they're missing key nutrients. Low iron, that's an easy fix, but you won't know unless you check. Low B12, that can make you feel straight up depressed and drained. Low magnesium, that affects everything from your sleep to your stress levels. Then there's blood sugar. You ever eat something sweet and feel great for an hour, then completely crash? That's because refined carbs and sugar spike your insulin, then send you on a roller coaster of highs and lows. Over time, that kind of pattern wreaks havoc on your energy. If you're constantly tired after meals, pay attention to what you're eating. You might need more protein, more fiber, more healthy fats to keep your energy stable. And let's talk about stress, because, honestly, if you're always on edge, if you're juggling a million things and never giving yourself a break, fatigue is inevitable. Your body is not designed to live in a state of constant tension. When's the last time you truly relaxed? Not just scrolled on your phone, but actually let your nervous system reset. Breathing exercises, movement, even just stepping outside, these things sound small, but they're huge when it comes to restoring your energy. So here's what I want you to do after this episode. Take an honest look at how you're feeling. If you've been running on empty for weeks, months, maybe even years, don't ignore it. Start with the basics. Get your blood work done, check for deficiencies, track your sleep, pay attention to your body. Because here's the truth, your body is not supposed to feel like this. Fatigue is not normal, running on fumes is not normal, and pushing through it, that only works for so long before something gives. But the good news, once you start listening, once you start making small changes, it's amazing how quickly your body responds. You start waking up with real energy. Your mind feels clearer. Your body starts working with you, not against you. And isn't that what we all want? To feel good, to have the energy to actually enjoy life instead of just getting through the day? So, don't ignore it. If you're tired all the time, there's a reason. And you owe it to yourself to find out why. All right, coming up next, we're diving into another huge warning sign that people tend to overlook: sudden weight changes. If the numbers on the scale have been going up or down unexpectedly, this might be more than just a metabolism thing. Let's get into it. Have you ever stepped on the scale and thought, wait, what? Maybe your weight jumped up seemingly overnight. Or maybe the numbers are dropping and you have no idea why. Either way, it's unsettling. We all expect a little fluctuation here and there, especially after a vacation, a stressful week, or, let's be honest, a little indulgence. But what about when those changes don't make any sense? What about when you haven't changed your eating habits, you haven't altered your routine, yet your body seems to be doing its own thing? That's when it's time to pay attention. Because here's the truth, sudden, unexplained weight changes aren't just about the scale, they're signals. They're your body trying to tell you that something beneath the surface might not be right. And I'm not talking about just a couple of pounds here and there. I mean real, noticeable changes that seem to happen without rhyme or reason. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "I don't get it. I haven't done anything differently, but I keep gaining weight." Or the opposite, "I'm dropping pounds like crazy, but I'm not even trying to lose weight." And usually the first reaction is either frustration or concern, because we've all been conditioned to see weight as this straightforward equation of calories in, calories out. But the reality is, your body is way more complex than a simple math problem. Let's talk about unexpected weight gain first. If you've ever felt like your body is working against you, like no matter what you do, the scale keeps creeping up. It's not just in your head, and it's not always about diet and exercise. Sure, lifestyle matters, but if the numbers are going up and nothing in your routine has changed, there could be something happening under the surface. Hormones, metabolism, inflammation. There are so many factors that play into how your body holds on to weight. I had a friend who was doing everything right, or at least everything she thought was right. She was eating clean, working out regularly, not binging on junk food, and still, her clothes were getting tighter, her energy was crashing, and she couldn't figure out why. It got to the point where she started blaming herself. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. But here's the kicker. When she finally got some lab work done, it turned out she had hypothyroidism. Her thyroid, the tiny gland that regulates metabolism, was barely functioning. Her body wasn't burning energy the way it should. Her digestion slowed down, her mood took a hit, and her body just held on to everything. And that's just one example. Hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, chronic stress, all of these things can rewire the way your body processes and stores fat. Have you ever heard someone say, "I swear I just look at food and gain weight"? Well, for some people, that's actually kind of true. Because when your metabolism slows down, when your body isn't responding to insulin properly, or when your stress hormones are constantly elevated, your body gets really good at storing fat, and not so good at burning it. Now, what about unexplained weight loss? If you've been dropping weight without trying, especially if you're eating normally or even more than usual, that's just as concerning. I know in a society where we're constantly bombarded with weight loss messages, this might not sound like a problem, but here's the thing. Your body is designed to maintain balance. If you're losing weight without a reason, something's off. This happened to someone I know. Not a drastic drop at first, just a few pounds here and there. She figured it was nothing, maybe just stress, maybe a faster metabolism. But then the weight kept coming off, and she started feeling weaker, dizzy, and constantly thirsty. She finally went to the doctor, and it turned out she had undiagnosed type 1 diabetes. Her body wasn't processing glucose properly, so it started burning muscle and fat for fuel. She thought she was just getting thinner, but really, her body was starving at a cellular level. And that's the scary thing. Weight loss can be a warning sign for so many things: hyperthyroidism, diabetes, gut disorders, even certain types of cancer. If your body is shedding weight without you trying, you need to find out why. Because even though we live in a culture where weight loss is often celebrated, it's not always a good thing. And let's not forget something else. Weight changes aren't just about numbers. They affect the way we feel, physically and emotionally. I mean, think about it. When your body isn't in balance, you feel it. Maybe your clothes don't fit right. Maybe you're constantly bloated. Maybe you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror. And that does something to your confidence, your energy, even your mental health. So, what can you do? First, listen to your body. If you've been gaining or losing weight unexpectedly and you can't pinpoint why, don't ignore it. Pay attention to what's happening alongside it. Are you extra tired? Are you struggling with digestion? Are you feeling off in other ways? The more you notice, the easier it is to connect the dots. Second, get checked out. And I don't mean just stepping on the scale. I mean real, comprehensive blood work. Thyroid levels, blood sugar, hormones, inflammation markers. Because once you understand what's going on inside, you can start making changes that actually work instead of just guessing. And lastly, be kind to yourself. If your body is changing in ways that feel out of your control, it's easy to fall into frustration or self-blame. But weight, whether it's going up or down, isn't just about what you eat or how much you move. It's about your body's inner workings. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is shift the focus away from the number on the scale and towards how you actually feel. So if this resonates with you, if you've been feeling stuck in a body that doesn't quite feel like yours, take this as a sign to dig deeper. Because your weight isn't just a number, it's a reflection of what's happening beneath the surface. And when you start paying attention, you take back the power to actually do something about it. Coming up next, we're talking about another major warning sign your body might be giving you: digestive issues. If you've been dealing with bloating, constipation, acid reflux, or just that uncomfortable feeling that something isn't quite right with your gut, you don't want to miss this. Because your digestive system is way more connected to your overall health than you probably realize. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about your gut for a second. It's something we all take for granted until something goes wrong. But what happens when your stomach's not just a little upset, but you're dealing with frequent digestive issues? And I'm not just talking about a rare bout of indigestion after a heavy meal. I'm talking about the kind of persistent discomfort that just doesn't go away. Bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, that feeling of being off after every meal. And when it happens too often, you start to wonder, why is this happening to me? I remember a time a couple of years ago when a close friend of mine started complaining about constant stomach issues. Every meal, no matter what she ate, felt like it was too much. She'd feel bloated and uncomfortable, sometimes for hours afterward. She thought it was just stress. After all, she had a pretty intense job. But when it started interfering with her daily life, she couldn't go out with friends, had to cancel plans because she didn't want to risk feeling miserable, and even started avoiding certain foods because of how bad her stomach hurt. She realized it was more than just a bad week or a little stress. After a visit to her doctor and some tests, she learned something pretty shocking. It wasn't just stress, it was a gut imbalance, a disruption in her gut microbiome. Her body was dealing with a higher level of inflammation than normal, and her digestive system was struggling to process food properly. She'd been ignoring it, thinking it was nothing, and now her gut was telling her, hey, you need to pay attention. And you know what? She's not alone. Digestive issues are so common that we've almost gotten used to them, haven't we? How many times have you heard someone say, ugh, my stomach is always upset, or I can't eat this or that anymore because it just doesn't sit right? We often treat these symptoms like they're just part of life. But here's the thing. Frequent digestive problems are a sign your body is sending out a message, and it's not one you want to ignore. Take bloating, for example. That feeling of being too full, even if you haven't eaten much. We've all been there. Maybe you ate a big meal, or maybe it was just a salad, but your stomach feels stretched and uncomfortable. Once in a while, fine, it happens. But when it's happening after every meal, that's your body saying, something's off. It could be your gut struggling to break down food properly. It could be an issue with your digestive enzymes. Or it could be a sign of something like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Now, IBS is one of those things that's often brushed aside, isn't it? Oh, I just have IBS, people say, like it's no big deal. But let's talk about it for a moment, because IBS is more than just discomfort. It's a pattern. It's your gut telling you that the way you're eating, the foods you're choosing, or even the stress you're carrying is disrupting the way your digestive system works. And then there's constipation. How often do you hear someone complain about not being able to go to the bathroom? I've had friends tell me they're lucky if they go once a week, and they just kind of shrug it off like it's not a big deal. Let me tell you, it's a big deal. If you're not having regular bowel movements, toxins can build up in your system, and that puts a strain on your overall health. It can lead to a range of problems, from fatigue to skin issues to even affecting your immune system. So, if you find yourself getting backed up, don't just think it'll go away. Your body's trying to tell you that your digestive system needs help. I've also heard from a lot of people who struggle with acid reflux. And wow, this one is more common than we talk about. You know, that burning sensation in your chest, that horrible feeling of food coming back up your throat. It's not just an occasional nuisance. For some people, it's chronic. And the real kicker? Many people don't realize that persistent acid reflux can damage the lining of your esophagus over time. It's a classic example of how we can get so used to living with discomfort that we don't realize the long-term consequences. When your body's trying to process food, but it's constantly getting stuck somewhere along the way, it's an indicator that something is out of balance. Your digestive system is key to your overall health. Think about it. It's responsible for absorbing nutrients, for processing the food you eat, for keeping you energized, and for keeping harmful toxins at bay. If your digestive system is on the fritz, it affects everything else. Your energy levels, your mood, your immune system, even your skin. It's like a domino effect, where one thing goes wrong and it causes a whole bunch of other problems to fall in line. So, what can you do about it? Well, the first step is acknowledging that digestive issues aren't something you have to live with. They're not normal. Yes, they're common, but common doesn't equal normal. You don't have to just accept bloating, discomfort, or pain as part of life. Your body is telling you that something's out of whack and it's time to listen. One of the first things you can do is start looking at your diet. What are you eating that might be irritating your gut? We all know that certain foods can cause discomfort. Dairy, gluten, processed foods, even certain fruits and vegetables. But what's often overlooked is the fact that food sensitivities can develop over time. It's not always about an outright allergy. Sometimes your body starts reacting to foods you've eaten your whole life, and it can show up as bloating, gas, or even skin issues. Keeping a food journal and noting when you feel uncomfortable can help pinpoint problem foods. And then there's your gut microbiome. You've probably heard about this a lot in recent years, and for good reason. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, and they play a huge role in digestion. If your microbiome is out of balance, if there's an overgrowth of bad bacteria or not enough of the good kind, you'll start feeling it. In fact, studies have shown that an unhealthy microbiome can contribute to everything from IBS to anxiety. So, how do you support a healthy microbiome? It starts with fiber. Fiber is like food for the good bacteria in your gut. And when you eat a diverse range of plant-based foods, you're feeding those bacteria and helping them thrive. So if you're eating mostly processed foods, or if you're lacking in fruits and vegetables, you could be missing out on the nutrients your gut needs to function properly. Another thing to consider is stress. It's hard to talk about digestion without mentioning stress because the two are closely tied. Think about it. When you're stressed, your body goes into fight or flight mode, and digestion slows down. It's like your body has more important things to deal with than digesting food. And when you're under chronic stress, your digestive system just can't keep up. So, taking steps to manage your stress, whether it's through exercise, meditation, or just taking more breaks during the day, can help your digestion work more smoothly. And then, of course, there's hydration. It seems like such a basic thing, but we often forget how important water is to digestion. If you're dehydrated, your body struggles to break down food, which can lead to constipation and other digestive issues. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day. But let me tell you, even if you change your diet, manage your stress, and stay hydrated, sometimes you still need some help from your doctor. If you've been struggling with persistent digestive issues, it's time to get checked out. It could be something simple, like a food sensitivity, or it could be something more complex, like an autoimmune condition, gut dysbiosis, or even an infection. Don't wait until things get worse. listen to your body, and let me leave you with this. Your gut isn't just the thing that processes food. It's the foundation of your overall health. When your digestive system isn't working, nothing else will either. So take care of it. Be aware of the signs, pay attention to what your body is telling you, and make the changes that can help you feel better. Coming up next, we're going to dive into another issue that a lot of people deal with, but don't realize it's linked to something much bigger: skin problems. If you've been struggling with acne, eczema, rashes, or other skin issues, you're not going to want to miss this next part. Trust me, what's happening on the outside can be a reflection of what's going on inside your body. Let's break it down. Let's talk about something that affects a lot of people but doesn't always get taken seriously enough: your skin. If you've ever struggled with breakouts, eczema, rashes, or just weird skin flare-ups that seem to come out of nowhere, you know how frustrating it can be. You wake up, look in the mirror, and there it is. A pimple that wasn't there yesterday, or a dry patch that just won't go away no matter what lotion you use. And if you're someone who's been dealing with this for a while, you've probably tried everything: different skincare routines, new products, maybe even medications, but nothing seems to fix it for good. That's because, more often than not, persistent skin problems aren't just skin problems. They're signs of something deeper. And your body? It's trying to tell you something. I know a lot of people who've been in this cycle, going from one dermatologist to another, switching up their cleansers, cutting out dairy, trying every miracle product the internet swears by. And sometimes those things help a little. But what if the real issue isn't what's happening on the surface of your skin, but what's going on inside your body? It's funny, isn't it? We spend so much time focusing on what we can see, but we don't always stop to think about what's happening beneath the surface. Think about it. Your skin is the largest organ in your body. It's not just there to look good, it's a reflection of your overall health. And when something's off inside, your skin is often the first place to show it. A friend of mine struggled with acne well into her 30s. She had tried every skincare product out there, changed her diet, even took antibiotics at one point, because a doctor told her it was the best way to get rid of breakouts. But nothing worked long term. It wasn't until she saw a functional medicine doctor who tested her for gut issues that she realized what was really going on. Her skin wasn't the problem, her gut was. She had an imbalance in her microbiome that was causing inflammation throughout her body. And her skin was basically waving a big red flag saying, "Hey, something's not right." And that's something a lot of people don't realize. Your gut and your skin are deeply connected. When your gut is out of balance, whether it's from too much processed food, stress, food sensitivities, or even a hidden infection, your body reacts with inflammation. And where does that inflammation show up? On your skin. It's not just acne either. Eczema, psoriasis, rosacea. These aren't just skin conditions. They're signs that your immune system is overreacting to something. Your body is trying to fight off what it thinks is a threat. And in the process, it's creating inflammation that shows up as redness, flaking, itching, and breakouts. And it makes sense, right? Your skin is an elimination organ. Your body pushes toxins out through your pores. If your liver isn't detoxifying properly, if your gut is inflamed, or if your hormones are out of balance, your skin takes the hit. Hormones are another big one. Have you ever noticed how breakouts tend to happen at the same time every month for some people? Or how stress can cause your skin to freak out? That's because your hormones, especially cortisol, insulin, and androgens, control how much oil your skin produces, how much inflammation is happening beneath the surface, and how well your body is regulating itself overall. And let's not forget about stress. We tend to think of stress as something that affects our mood or energy levels, but it's also one of the biggest culprits behind skin flare-ups. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol, which triggers your oil glands to produce more sebum. That can lead to clogged pores, acne, and even a breakdown of collagen, which means more wrinkles and premature aging. Stress literally ages your skin. And yet, when most people deal with breakouts, they reach for a new cleanser instead of looking at what's causing their stress levels to spike. So, what can you do if you're struggling with persistent skin problems? The first step is shifting your mindset. Stop thinking of your skin as something separate from the rest of your body. Instead of just treating the symptom, ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? Start by paying attention to what triggers your flare-ups. Is it stress, certain foods, a lack of sleep? Have you been eating a lot of processed food lately? Drinking more alcohol than usual? When you start connecting the dots, you can figure out what's actually causing the issue rather than just covering it up with another topical cream. And speaking of food, one of the biggest game changers for skin health is diet. If your skin is constantly breaking out, if you have stubborn rashes or dryness that won't go away, take a hard look at what you're eating. Are you getting enough healthy fats? Your skin needs omega-3s from sources like salmon, flax seeds, and walnuts to stay hydrated and fight inflammation. Are you eating enough antioxidants? Your skin is constantly battling free radicals from pollution, stress, and sun exposure, and it needs nutrients like vitamin C and E to repair itself. But it's not just about what you add to your diet, it's also about what you remove. If you're struggling with skin problems, one of the first things to try is cutting out inflammatory foods like dairy, refined sugar, and processed junk. These foods spike insulin, increase oil production, and fuel the very inflammation you're trying to get rid of. And don't underestimate the power of hydration. If your skin is constantly dry, flaky, or breaking out, ask yourself, am I drinking enough water? Dehydration makes everything worse. Your body needs water to flush out toxins, and when you're not getting enough, your skin becomes dull, irritated, and prone to breakouts. But even beyond diet and hydration, one of the most important things you can do for your skin is to manage your stress. I know, easier said than done. But if stress is one of the biggest triggers for inflammation, then finding ways to reduce stress is one of the best things you can do. Not just for your skin, but for your whole body, whether it's exercise, meditation, getting outside, or just making sure you're getting enough sleep. Lowering stress lowers inflammation. And when inflammation goes down, your skin starts to heal. I want you to take a second and think about what your skin has been trying to tell you lately. Have you been breaking out more than usual? Are you dealing with dryness, irritation, or redness that won't go away? Instead of just looking for another product, start looking for patterns. Your body is always communicating with you. It's just a matter of whether or not you're listening. So if you've been struggling with persistent skin issues and nothing seems to work, take this as a sign to dig a little deeper. Start looking inside, not just outside. Because the real solution, it's not in a bottle, it's in the way you treat your body every single day. Coming up next, we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked warning signs your body can give you: mood swings, anxiety, and brain fog. If you've been feeling off mentally, struggling with focus, or dealing with random mood shifts, you might be surprised to learn just how much your physical health is affecting your mental well-being. Stay with me, because this next part, it's something everyone needs to hear. All right, let's switch gears and talk about something that's been affecting a lot of us, especially in today's world, our mental health. But I don't mean just feeling stressed or tired after a long day. I'm talking about the mood swings, the sudden waves of anxiety, or that feeling where your brain is just foggy. You know, those times when you sit down to focus on something, but you just can't seem to string your thoughts together? It's like your brain has hit a wall, or maybe you're irritable, snapping at people for no reason. Or you find yourself spiraling into anxiety over small things that wouldn't normally even faze you. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like something everyone goes through, right? And you'd be right. We all have those bad days. But when these feelings become a regular part of your life, when mood swings or anxiety feel like they've become your default setting, it's your body waving a flag saying, "Hey, I'm trying to tell you something here. Something's out of balance." And trust me, your body doesn't just hand you anxiety or brain fog for fun. It's trying to point out an underlying issue. I remember when I was in my 20s, I was in one of those phases where I was constantly stressed, constantly on edge, and I couldn't shake this cloud of brain fog. I'd get these bursts of energy where I felt like I could conquer the world, only for that energy to crash hard a few hours later, leaving me feeling completely drained. But the weirdest part? Even though I was exhausted, I couldn't sleep properly. And then there were the mood swings. I'd go from feeling really happy to suddenly irritable over the smallest things. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was like my body was on autopilot and I was just along for the ride. I tried everything: more sleep, more coffee, different diets, but nothing seemed to work. It wasn't until I started looking at my diet and stress levels that I realized what was happening. You see, our brains are incredibly sensitive to what's going on inside our bodies. And it turns out that a lot of the issues I was facing had to do with what I was eating, how much stress I was under, and how all of that was affecting my gut and hormones. Yes, I said hormones. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hormones? Isn't that something that only affects women? But actually, hormones play a massive role in everyone's mental state, whether you're male or female. They control everything from your mood to your energy to how well your brain works. So, when your hormones are out of whack, it's no surprise your mood is going to follow suit. One of the most common culprits is cortisol, which is your body's stress hormone. When you're constantly stressed out, your cortisol levels stay high, and that can lead to everything from anxiety to irritability to even memory problems. And guess what happens when your cortisol levels spike? Your serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone, starts to drop. So suddenly you've got a brain that's stuck in stress mode, and your happiness levels are plummeting. You feel anxious for no reason, maybe even overwhelmed with small tasks. Or your brain feels like it's wrapped in a cloud, and it's all happening because your body is in a constant state of fight or flight. But it's not just cortisol at play. There's also insulin, the hormone that regulates your blood sugar. When your insulin levels are constantly elevated from eating processed foods, sugars, or carbs that cause blood sugar spikes, your brain's energy levels start to dip. You know how it feels when you eat a sugary snack and get that burst of energy only to crash a couple of hours later? That's insulin at work. And if you're eating a lot of processed foods, your brain doesn't get the steady energy it needs to function properly. You feel sluggish, scattered, and your focus is shot. Suddenly, it's harder to remember things, and keeping track of multiple thoughts feels like a mountain climb. But here's where it gets interesting. Did you know that your gut is actually tied to your brain through something called the gut-brain axis? That's right. The health of your digestive system plays a huge role in how well your brain functions. There are trillions of bacteria in your gut that help process the food you eat and produce chemicals that influence your mood, your focus, and your mental clarity. So, if your gut is out of balance, it can lead to all kinds of mental health issues, including anxiety and brain fog. I've spoken to people who've struggled with depression or anxiety for years, only to find out that it was gut health, not their brain, that was the root cause. And you don't even have to have digestive issues to be affected. If your gut is inflamed or if you're not feeding it the right kind of nutrients, it can send signals to your brain that make you feel off. Let me tell you a quick story that really illustrates how this works. A few months ago, I started talking to a friend of mine who'd been experiencing major anxiety and brain fog, especially in the mornings. She'd wake up feeling incredibly sluggish, almost like her brain couldn't catch up with her body. She was struggling with motivation, feeling irritable, and just couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The crazy part? She didn't realize it, but she was consuming way too much caffeine. She'd have 3 or 4 cups of coffee in the morning, followed by energy drinks in the afternoon just to keep going. She'd gotten used to the anxiety, the jitteriness, and the brain fog, and thought it was just her personality or stress. But when she made a change and cut back on caffeine and started drinking more water, guess what happened? Her anxiety dropped and her brain fog cleared up. She couldn't believe it. All that time, she'd been feeding her body with things that were messing with her hormones, her gut, and her brain. So, what can you do about it? Well, the first step is realizing that mood swings, anxiety, and brain fog aren't just mental problems. They are often physical problems that are tied to your hormones, your gut health, your blood sugar, and even how much stress you're under. These aren't things you have to live with. I always say, the first place to start is stress management. I know, you're probably thinking, great, another thing to do, like I don't have enough on my plate. But here's the thing, stress is one of the biggest culprits behind mental health problems. If you're living in a constant state of stress, your brain never gets a chance to relax and recharge. And when that happens, all of those hormones, cortisol, insulin, serotonin, get out of balance, and your brain starts showing the signs. So, finding ways to manage your stress can have a huge impact on your mental clarity, your mood, and even your ability to focus. But don't just think of stress management as something you do once in a while. It's a daily practice. It can be as simple as taking a few minutes to breathe deeply, going for a walk, or just getting outside to clear your head. Something as simple as taking a break from work to step outside, get fresh air, and reset can make all the difference in your mindset. Next, pay attention to your diet. Are you eating foods that are supporting your brain, or are you fueling it with quick fixes like sugar and caffeine? Try swapping out those processed snacks for foods rich in omega-3s like fatty fish or walnuts, and antioxidants like berries and leafy greens. The goal is to feed your brain the nutrients it needs to function properly. And don't forget about your gut. If you're dealing with anxiety or brain fog, take a look at your digestion. Are you bloated after meals? Do you feel sluggish after eating certain foods? A healthy gut equals a healthy brain. So make sure you're eating enough fiber, drinking plenty of water, and considering ways to improve your gut health, like incorporating fermented foods or taking a probiotic. I want you to think about your mood and mental clarity not as separate from your physical health, but as an extension of it. If you're struggling with mood swings, anxiety, or brain fog, it's a sign that your body is telling you something isn't right. It might not be obvious, but it's there. And by taking small steps to balance your hormones, support your gut, and manage stress, you can start to feel better mentally and emotionally. So, what are you waiting for? Start paying attention to how your body feels, what you're eating, and the amount of stress you're carrying. Your brain is more connected to your body than you realize, and taking care of one will always improve the other. We've got one more important topic to dive into before we wrap this up, and I think you'll find it just as eye-opening as everything we've covered so far. Stay tuned, because we're about to talk about how persistent physical problems can be an early warning sign of something bigger, and what you can do to catch them before they get out of hand. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. We've covered a lot today, and I really appreciate you sticking with me through all these signs that your body might be sending you. We've talked about everything from chronic fatigue to weight changes, and even the persistent digestive issues and mood swings that can make life feel, well, a little more complicated than it needs to be. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again because it's the key to everything. Your body is always trying to tell you something. When it starts sending you signs, like the ones we've gone through, it's like getting a text message from your best friend saying, "Hey, something's off. Maybe it's time to pay attention to this." The thing is, we often don't listen. We ignore it, push through it, or convince ourselves that it's just a phase. We think it's nothing serious, that it'll pass. But here's the thing. Most health issues don't just show up overnight. They build over time, little by little. And while there's no magic pill or quick fix for everything, the earlier you start listening to these signs, the easier it will be to take control and make positive changes. It's not about being perfect. It's about being proactive and making small adjustments that add up over time. I mean, imagine how much easier it would be if you could catch these things early and adjust your habits before it turns into a full-blown health crisis. What would that feel like? How much better would your day-to-day life be if you didn't have to deal with constant fatigue, anxiety, or that gnawing feeling of just not feeling like yourself? Now, I'm not here to scare you. I'm not going to tell you that if you've experienced any of these signs in the past, you're doomed or something drastic is about to happen. No, what I want to do is empower you. I want you to take these signs as tools to help you understand your body better and give you the knowledge to make the right choices moving forward. Just like when your car gives you a warning light, you don't have to panic, but you do need to pay attention, right? It's the same thing with your body. These signs are just that, warnings, and once you start paying attention to them, you'll have the power to take the necessary steps to improve your health and your life. Think about it. You can have more energy, more clarity, more peace of mind, and a body that feels stronger and more balanced. It's all possible by making these small changes that can really make a difference in the long run. The key is awareness. So many of us go through life without really listening to what our body is telling us. And that's when things can spiral. But when you start tuning in, paying attention, and making adjustments as needed, it's like you're taking back control, and that's where the magic happens. Now, let's talk about the next step. If you're nodding along right now, thinking, "Okay, I get it. It's time to listen up," then I've got a challenge for you. I want you to take one thing from today's episode and commit to paying attention to it over the next week. Is it your energy levels? Are you going to pay closer attention to your sleep and how it affects your mood? Maybe it's your digestive health, or perhaps you're going to start tracking how stress is affecting your brain and emotional health. Whatever it is, pick one. Just one thing you're going to focus on and commit to doing something about it. It doesn't have to be a huge shift. It doesn't have to be a full overhaul of your lifestyle. Just start with one small change and pay attention to how it feels. I think you'll be amazed at what a little self-awareness can do for your mind and body. And here's the thing. You're not alone in this journey. I'm right here with you. This podcast is part of that conversation, part of that awareness. We're building a community here. one that's all about taking control of our health in a thoughtful and empowered way. I'm always here to share more resources, tips, and conversations to keep you on track. So, if you found today's episode valuable, I encourage you to share it with someone who might need to hear this message. You'd be surprised how much a small conversation can shift someone's mindset or encourage them to take action. So, if this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode where we dive deep into the real-world tools that help you live better, feel better, and ultimately be your best self. Before I sign off, I want you to think about this. What's one small change you could make today to start taking control of your health? Is it drinking more water? Getting that extra hour of sleep? Taking a walk every day to clear your mind? Whatever it is, do it. It's time to take action, and there's no better time than right now. So, if you found value in this conversation, go ahead and hit like, share this with a friend or family member who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe for more content. If you want to keep the conversation going, drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. What's your number one sign that something's not right in your body? How are you taking action? Let's keep this conversation going and help each other out. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.